Hey, this is Peggy with Easy Peasy Machine Embroidery, and today I'm gonna try to uh, do an applique based on a stained glass, and that's kind of tricky to do. And hopefully I can give directions for both MySewNet, Platinum, and Ultra Premier in the same video. Okay, so let's begin. I want to remind people to like and subscribe to this channel if you want to keep these videos coming. I don't do them for my health. And if you want me to do a video on something specific, leave it in the comments and I'll see what I can do to help you out. This is what I am attempting to work on. It was a stained glass, I believe it's an Airedale that was taken off of a Google image site. It's not for resale or anything like that. It's just for educational purposes and for me to kind of play and see what I can do with it. So let's begin. First of all, we're going to open up MySewNet and I'm going to go straight into digitizing. If you have Premiere Plus Ultra, you're going to go down into the little, what looks like a tulip on the lower left-hand side, and that is the Create module, and that's where you're going to go. You could also, in MySewNet, just go to a blank canvas, pick your size hoop, and then go to Create, and then straight into digitizing. Either way works perfectly. And remember, we are not going to close, excuse me, we are not going to touch that finish button, should we have a finish button. The reason you didn't see a finish button with this one is because I have one started already, and it knows that. So what you would do is you would load a background picture. And I keep that kind of stuff on my desktop. So, right there it is. Whoops. We're going to go here. And here is the actual picture. And you would crop it by just taking these corners. And crop it as close as you can get it without altering the design. Okay, I'm okay on all four sides, so we're going to hit next. And I want to do this in the 200 by 200 hoop. I could change my hoop right here to any one of the hoops that you would normally use and whatever brand you would use. Or you can just say, I want a hoop to be a specific size and put the size in down here. But for us, we're going to do the 200 by 200 hoop. So I'm going to say finish. I have not quite figured out how to get the design to take up the entire space. I think it has to do with my cropping. And another thing I wanted to show you at this point was to go into view. You can, when you're designing, you can alter that background. There's a slider bar in the view tab that you can mess with. And if you need to edit the background, there you go. There's your button for editing the background. It's going to open up your Draw and Paint. If you need to take and make a line thicker, or if you need to touch up something, how do I explain this? Sometimes I will take and make a color bigger, like a white speck in an eyeball, and I will take and make it bigger using these tools. Okay, I am not going to go into all that today. And I'm going to back out at this point and go into the one that and here is the one I have started already. And what I did is I went into Point Create and I figured out what kind of stitches I wanted. And when I am designing appliques these days, I always do it in a running stitch. You can always go back and change all those things later. The reason I do it in a running stitch rather than going and choosing an applique is because once you start putting appliques in, you're going to end up having parts and pieces of your design covered. Like if you do parts of the face, the eyes might be covered up. So I always do a running stitch first, and then when I've got all of my stitches laid down, then I go back and add the appliques. And I am in Point Create. If you are using Premiere Plus Ultra, it's going to be Precise Create. Another area you want to be aware of is the fill area and line over here. That is what is going to set your stitch length and whatnot. Right now I'm going to leave my stitch length at 2.0. If I wanted to, if I had a motif or a fill or anything like that, those settings would also be in here, and everything you do as far as a fill or like every line, every stitch that you would make would automatically be whatever is in these boxes. So for now, I'm leaving everything on a running stitch. And all I'm doing is I'm going to turn my viewer back. See how I can see what stitches I've already done? So I have not done, let's see, I have done the tail. Alright, so I see what I'm going to work on. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that the order that things are going to be stitched out. So if I want that hind leg to be stitched out first, I need to make sure it's up at the top. I need to work on that first, do that first. I would lay down my applique first. So I created the oval, and I did that just in Quick Create. And that would be the same tab for both versions of the software. And I would drop the arrow down for the shapes, and then I would just pick a circle and then make it into an oval by dragging it. Whatever you have checked over in this area is what's going to happen when you drop the circle down. So if I drop that circle down, it's just going to have a running stitch. And I'm going to delete that because I don't want it. So what I'm going to do here, just for kicks and giggles, is I'm going to insert a color change. And I'm just going to do any old color that's different from what I've used before. And I'm going to make sure that I'm clicked on that color before I start doing laying points down. Create liner area, or you're going to, if you're in Premiere Plus Ultra, you're going to choose the Precise Create. And all you're going to do, I like to go down to the lower right hand side and click on the zoom tool. And if I'm going to do this first, then I am going to drop a point, and I'm going to do it just inside. And remember, I held down the Shift key to get that angle. I believe in the Premiere Plus Ultra, it's the Control key. That used to drive me absolutely nuts. So there's a small piece there. That would be an applique. But chances are, I'm going to leave that there just for a bit anyway. And chances are, let's see, I would do that first. And then I would drop some more points. I'm going to make that into an angle by holding the key down. And that was the Shift key for the MySewNet users. Remember, you can go back and move these if you want. Nothing is set in stone until you have right-clicked it. And because I know this is going to go in underneath these applique pieces, I'm going to make them, this applique piece, just a little bit bigger. And then if I right-click, it turns it into the stitching, and we're good to go. Now, there it is. It's in the right order. If you find that something needs to be moved around, you can always, you can do a right-click and you can group them together. Or you can just highlight everything and using your mouse, just slide them up to where they need to be. Or you can go down here to layout order and say, I want it in the back of the design, or I want it to move forward a little bit, backwards a little bit, move to the front of the design. Now remember, the front of the design is something that is going to stitch out last. So, for instance, I just did the bottom of that leg while you weren't looking. And I decided that I would probably do that first. So I'm just going to highlight both of those and take them with my mouse and drop them above the purple so that they will stitch out first. So that's how I do that. Now, the other thing, though, is that right now we're just doing straight running stitches. What I do when I'm gonna create an applique and I know what fabrics I'm going to use, I will go and I will get a picture of that fabric with my phone and I'll email it to myself, or I'll put it on a camera on a SD card and I'll pop that into my machine. Somehow or other I will get that photo of my fabric onto my computer. So I am going to click on my running stitch here, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to go into properties. Remember, properties is going to affect just the one thing I'm working on. Global properties is what I'm going to, if I wanted to change every single one of my single stitches into a satin stitch, the whole design, then I would choose global properties. For instance, if I wanted to do global, I could do a satin line on everything, and it would do everything. Okay, Control Z as in zebra will do away with that because I do not want satin lines all over everything. I am going to right click over that same number 6 on my film strip, and I'm going to go into properties because I only want just that one thing affected, and I'm going to go into applique, and I'm going to say standard applique, and I'm going to select fabric, now you could leave these plain if you wanted, or you can go into the fabric option. Down here, I think you can see all different kinds of fabrics that they have already added that came preloaded with the program. But right here, I can say add a new background fabric. And I say load picture. And I am now in my desktop. I have a folder that I made called fabric. And I will pick this fabric. The other places that I will go to get fabric is I'll just go into like Joann Fabrics or one of the other manufacturers, and I will search out the type of fabric I'm looking for and do a right click, save picture as, and save that into the folder. The one problem with that is that some of the websites are using a file called WEBP, and when you open this folder, you know you have 8 things in there, but you're not seeing a single thing. That's because it is only looking for the JPEGs. So what you do is on that fabric picture itself, you're going to right click and you're going to open in your Paint program, your Microsoft Paint program. Those will open in the Microsoft Paint, and you can just convert them over to the JPEG by doing a save as. And then you will see them all in this folder. That's what I had to do. There were only 3 that initially showed up. So anyway, I am going to choose that brownish color and say OK. And I'm going to say next. And I'm going to say next, and I got to tell you, I have no idea what this line is yet. It's got something to do with quilting, I think. I just put like a 20 there. Seems to work. it puts it in a folder called My Fabrics. So I say Finish, and now it shows up as a choice, and I can say OK, or I can go back and change it to whatever color fabric I want. So that's how I can see exactly what my applique is going to look like. And then afterwards, let me go back out to a full size. Afterwards, all these lines that would be black in a stained glass, you can see each one of these lines is a satin stitch. So I laid down all my satin stitch lines first, and then I copied and pasted my ovals in. I'm trying to see which one this is. And then I started working on the inner parts and pieces. So right here is this one, and here's this one. So that's how I did those. And I will eventually shift them around here and there. This is a project that is going to be a labor of love, and it's going to take me quite a while to finish it, but I hope that you have a better idea of some of these things, of how to change things over. Here's a running stitch. I'm going to go into properties. The other thing on this, what's going to be an applique, is I probably am going to want more than a running stitch. So I'm going to say a triple stitch, standard applique. Here again, I'm going to select my fabric. I already have fabric options in there, preloaded. So if I go to my fabrics, these are all the fabrics that I have loaded. I did a Christmas project last year that had some fur on it. So there's the fur. I think this is some more fur. It had some stripes. Maybe I want that fabric for the tail. And I just keep doing that. And eventually, I would go down here. Those are satin lines. I would go up here, and I would turn that into a applique. And I'm going to use this one. And then I would go here and properties, applique, and again I would be switching the lines and all that kind of stuff before I do the stitching out. I would take a really close look at each of my items on that film strip. I'm going to add another fabric. So see how that is turning out? And I would do all of those things, items separately. I would take a really close look at all these items and say, do I want a running stitch there? Um, it's going to have a satin stitch around it at the very end. The running stitches is kind of to tack that fabric down for now. So I have to think of those things. Alrighty. I hope you've got an idea of how these type of stained glass designs would be done. And I hope you remember to, give me a thumbs up or leave a comment. And the last thing I really wanted you to be aware of are some of the other great YouTube sites for learning how to use your software. Phil Carlton is a huge name. Linda's Stitchings is another. She does some really neat projects on there. Power Tools with Thread is pretty cool. Maggie Murphy is another person who is really good with the software, and she has a Facebook page that they actually do projects, one every couple of months. So check out those sites. All right, catch you later. Bye. I forgot one last thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and that is, see, there's that finish button. Don't touch it. This is one that I haven't, actually it is the one that I just did. So I always, always, always go to that file button and do a save as, and I save that EDO file. Always, because I've worked too hard to not have it show up when I hit that X at the top of the page. The other thing I do here is I do my export applique pieces once I'm all done designing, and I make sure it says whatever I want. I do not do Cricut. I have a Cricut, but I've found that it just takes too long to cut applique pieces. So I would choose my PDF, and then I would, remember you have to click over here to have that activated, and hit print, and it should say Microsoft PDF there, and it knows that it's going to print, and we say okay, and it's going to print you a PDF so you have templates of those. Normally when you click out there, it is going to go right back into your embroidery screen, and then you're good to go. Okay, and now I truly am done.